After serving in Hong Kong, Henry returned. Served many years in the US military. He returns to his old school in search of a teaching position. The principal admits that he lacks teaching expertise. But he receives the position after being handed a letter of reference from a higher authority. The principal tells Henry that the class he is supposed to teach is the worst one before Henry departs. Henry enters the classroom on his first day of school to discover that it is in complete disarray. While others sing, some students sleep, while others play computer games. And a significant portion of them are using a portable stove to prepare ramen. Even when the instructor enters, he is entirely disregarded as they go on with their work. Henry attempts to reach them. They pretend not to hear him yet pay him attention. Ramen has too much salt. Then Henry approaches Zufa, who is playing the ukulele, and assists him. Similarly, he cautions a young player about the radiation exposure that may result from spending all day looking at a screen. He introduces himself and writes his name as the pupils begin to pay attention. Once again, the children disregard him and go on with their previous pastimes. Henry activates the fire sprinkler with a rubber band and chalk because he's had enough. To avoid getting wet, the kids rapidly dispersed. Once he has their whole attention, he formally welcomes them to his class. 5 of the lowest-scoring pupils congregate in the sports equipment room after class. Tobacco Use the group's leader Jack has a crush on an A-grade student in a different class. He is made fun of by the others when they see him fixating on her photo. The two groups are competitors. They go inside the storage area and continue to make fun of Jack's poverty. Later, Jack and the basketball team are working out. From close by, the gang observes them. As a result of Jack's bottle spill on the court, the team captain dropped. Miss Liang, the English instructor at the school, orders detention despite the group's laughter. While she is occupied with cleaning her desk, they pull a joke on her and flee to escape being sent to detention. The principal of another school is upset because the education board intends to take deductions from 20% of their budget for the year. While doing so, Henry walks inside the classroom where the pupils had prepared a bucket of water as a practical joke on him. However, he can shove the falling bucket aside because of his quick reactions. The classmates who were planning to tease him are astonished. Henry requests, "Knowing that Jack smokes, I gave him a package of cigarettes." Jack merely gives the pack to him. Henry then asks Zufa to list the names of the 3 components that cigarettes contain. He is permitted to miss class that day if he provides the right response to the inquiry. Everyone begins banging on their desks, pleading for permission to skip class as well. He gives each of them a cigarette and instructs them to examine it once they quit. Henry is aware that they won't take it seriously if you only discuss the impact it has on their health. In its place, he asks, they truly pay attention to the instructor and show an interest in learning for the first time. The basketball team's leader makes a friend of Jack that day in the cafeteria. Bruce sprains his knee. This starts a fight between the factions, which quickly escalates, becomes violent. Later, Henry learns that 5 of his classmates have been placed on indefinite suspension for initiating the conflict. Henry intervenes when he sees Jack battling someone in the corridor. When told to calm down, Jack claims that the school is unfair since the wealthy students get no penalty. Henry examines each of the 5 pupils' files that day after school too. Zufa, the first man, is the son of a Pakistani immigrant and constantly subjected to racial discrimination. The only thing Zufa ever wanted in life was to be a musician. Dinan is a female. Since the moment of her birth, she had disappointed her father because he had always desired a son. Dinan has spent her whole life attempting to earn her father's respect. She also shortened her hair to play the part of a guy while playing with vehicles. While treating her little brother like a prince, her father doesn't care about her. Then there are the Bruce and Chris brothers. When they were young, their mother fled with a guy. Only children who made their father an alcoholic. To avoid reality, Bruce grew hooked on computer games, while Chris toiled away to support the family by working long hours in a grocery store. Finally, Henry is unable to locate any information on Jack's family history. In this scene, Jack is a server at a restaurant. Jianying, an MMA bettor, enters the eatery with his co-workers in business. Jack grabs Jianying's nice lighter while she isn't looking. As he examines Jack's ID and discovers that he is a student, Jianying's guys beat him up. He gives him some cash. Henry goes to Zufa's house somewhere else and discovers him fleeing from his father after swiping a ticket from friends. He first assists him. He takes the father's side when he is being pursued. He then arrives with Zufa to hang out at the bridge. Henry performs with a band to inspire Zufa to do anything he wants in public spaces. Zufa joins him shortly after and begins singing in front of people for the first time. Meanwhile, Chris's and Bruce's father returns home. He requests a beer from the grocer since he is running late as usual. He shouts at them to leave his home. The next day, Henry sees their father and persuades him to. For the benefit of his boys, he hands her a bag of cosmetics and tells her to behave like a girl for a change. Dinan has always been enraged by him, making her believe that she is unworthy. She dresses her little brother in cosmetics and uses the vehicle key to covertly leave the residence. She's preparing to leave in her father's vehicle but is at the proper time halted by Henry. They then go to a go-kart racing course. Henry invites her dad and has them compete. No compassion is shown between the father and daughter during and finally finishing outside the racetrack. Suddenly, a car strikes Dinan's go-kart, but she can avoid it. Her father, who is unaware of this, sobs in sorrow at his daughter's passing. Dinan embraces him after realizing that he does love her. The next day at school, Chris and Bruce are dispatched with a group to a treatment facility to speak with an alcoholic in recovery. They are taken aback to learn that their father would be the subject of the interview. Asks him about his drinking history. The guy responds that despite how much he loved his wife, his life's lowest moment. As a result, he began to drink and lost sight of his 2 children. The father apologizes to Bruce and Chris. The brothers are left in tears at the conclusion. Jack has begun to work for someone else somewhere. He offers Jack a significant sum of money to inject the fighters' drinks during the next match. Jack is compelled to accept the offer despite his resistance. Jianying sponsors the match on the day of the contest, a combatant who wagers on his defeat. Jack attempts to drug the fighter's beverage, but gets caught. He is assaulted and confined to a locker before he can point the finger at Jianying. After a time, Henry shows in and asks the combatants if they have seen his pupil. The guys beg Jack to go back home, but Jack cries for assistance from within the locker. Henry confronts them and easily defeats them once he realizes he is being confined. It becomes a little stressful, but Henry successfully avoids their blows. In its conclusion, he eliminates their top fighter, who was scheduled to face off in a few minutes. They are at the hospital where Henry is receiving treatment for his injuries in the scenario that follows. Jack attempts to confront Jianying with the facts but is silenced. The information reaches. Henry appears on television and begins to get notoriety after beating up a professional boxer. He becomes more well-liked and respected by the kids. In contrast to before, they even stand up to welcome him to the class. A moment ago, demonstrates to us that Henry used to play practical jokes on his classmates at a pupil who was performing on the piano for the parents. Later, he clashed with the same pupil and his hand fractured. He had to take a flight to the United States after being suspended from the bout. Beginning that day, the pupils concentrate while Henry lectures in class and put in a lot of effort to prepare for the impending entrance exam for college. Everyone is doing well, except Bruce has developed an addiction, used video games to distract himself from his family's issues. Bruce began abusing drugs. He does poorly in the mock exam because he lacks attention. Henry offers to assist Bruce, but as time passes, Bruce's depression worsens. He leaps from their home's balcony. He enters a coma after being taken to the hospital in a hurry. The news is misrepresented by the media, who attribute Bruce's actions to Henry and the school. Henry is questioned by the school board representatives, who ultimately decide to withdraw his teaching credential. The kids pursue him as he packs up and leaves the school, pleading with him to stay. Despite their sadness at his disappearance, they are aware that they must succeed in their approaching exams. They intensify their research efforts after that to demonstrate to the board that Henry is a capable educator. Jack receives a text message from his peers on the day of the exam. Henry requested that they meet at the school an hour before the test. They learn that Jianying's ruse to keep them imprisoned in the school was just that. Won't get to the test site in time. He's doing this to make a point to Henry. Later, Henry shows up at school and learns about Jianying's scheme. He permits the pupils, defeats every member of Jianying's entourage. While Henry battles Jianying, they make their way to the exam room swiftly. Jianying admits that he was the man whom Henry had as they are engaged in combat water balloons when he was a little child. Because Henry shattered his arm, he was unable to participate in a significant music contest. Since the occurrence, he hasn't played the piano at all, and he accuses Henry of crushing his dream. Henry attempts to persuade, but is once again assaulted. They battle for control of a knife. Finally, Henry receives chase after him but fails to murder him. He begs pardon for what he did when he was younger and moves on. The students arrive at the testing location on time and finish the exam. Fast forward a few weeks, and they all succeed with flying colors. Jianying begins to perform the piano once again, but he still has to practice a lot to reach his previous level of proficiency. Bruce becomes better swiftly and vows to take the admission exam the following year. The head of the school is also happy. Henry does the fire sprinkling technique when he starts teaching again on a different group of kids.